having switched from MK11 to MK1. My next task was to rewrite history. Not beholden to past failures, I am free to craft a new era. It is with motivation and ambition that I approach this blank canvas. I jumped into the deep end, eager to begin work. After a few days passed, I beat the campaign. After a few days more, I beat the towers. In my new era, I will seize the opportunity to gain skill, to train combos, learn frame data, and topple my rivals is my responsibility. For MK11 is when I began this endeavor, and Mortal Kombat 1, it is my duty and destiny to finish it. Contrary to me taking 40 to finish this first part of the review, I was on this game's ass when it came out. Like, there was nothing that was gonna stop me from at least finishing the campaign within like days of it coming out. This was my most anticipated game this year. There are a lot of hyped games that came out this year. I mean, we talking Hogwarts Legacy, Armored Core 6, Street Fighter 6, Sea of Stars, Starfield, even the almighty Baldur's Gate 3. None of these games could knock MK11 off as my top priority. Hell, not even Remnant 2 could stop me from immediately experiencing MK1 story mode. Although, to be fair, the reason for this excitement is because I really enjoyed my time with MK11. The campaign was phenomenal, and the gameplay was my first experience at actually learning combos in a 2D fighter game, and it was awesome. My only regret with MK11 was that I didn't spend more time with it. I never played the Towers mode, and by extension, the Towers of Time mode. I spent a minimal amount of time in the crypt, and I was only grinding online matchmaking for a short period of time. I also never got deep into learning the neutral game and frame data. To be honest, I played the OG Mortal Kombat like once, Deadly Alliance versus DC Universe 9, and a very minimal amount of X, but none as much as I played MK11, and I regret that as well. But now is my opportunity to change all of that. I'm P34J, and this is the first part to my review on Mortal Kombat. My first ever video game review was on Apex Legends. Check that out in the description. In this video, we're going to cover the campaign and briefly touch on the tower endings. Part 2 will cover invasions, all the training modes, online multiplayer, gameplay, content, and monetization. Mortal Kombat 1's story was a very enjoyable experience. I'll give a brief synopsis of my opinion before going into spoilers. The plot is absolutely convoluted and ridiculous, as to be expected from a Mortal Kombat story, climaxing with one of the coldest plot twists I've ever seen in a video game. Up to this point, the character development for most of the cast is on fleek. The good guys are relatable, the bad guys are scummy, particularly Shang Tsung, and Johnny Cage is hilarious. What's new? It is this that kept me engaged throughout the story, along with some epic moments and entrances. But I feel like right at the end, while the plot ups the ante in stakes, scale, and ridiculousness, the story drops the ball in terms of the characters and the final boss battle, which, for some reason, is only one damn round. It's like all the character development we see up until the final chapter doesn't have anything to do with the final battle, but at least we circle back to the main cast for a lighthearted cutscene at the end, so they'll matter for the next story, I'm sure. But to further elaborate on what I mean, we gotta get into the spoilers. So if you want to avoid spoilers, now is the time to click off the video. Final warning. 5, 4. In the game's opening, when you first launch the game, leading into the main menu, Fire God Liu Kang explains what happens after he defeated Kronika in MK11. He made a new timeline, which is where MK1 takes place. So everything you know about Mortal Kombat from the previous NetherRealm trilogy has been altered. Liu Kang is the protector of Earthrealm, while Raiden is his main champion. Kuai Liang, Bi-Han's younger brother, is not the second Sub-Zero, but in this timeline is Scorpion, and they both were raised with smoke. Shao was no longer Khan, but a general. Mileena is not Katana's clone, but her biological sister. Tarkatans are not a race, but Tarkat is a disease, caught by both Baraka and Mileena. And this is the perfect segue to the first cutscene, because the fear and paranoia surrounding Tarkat is exactly what Shang Tsung is taking advantage of. I believe the term the MK community is using is snake oil car salesman? Yeah, that's what Shang Tsung is in the beginning of this storyline. He creates fake healing potions and scams people, telling them it'll heal all diseases, including Tarkat. Yeah, that's almost as bad of a scam as MK1 is on Nintendo Switch. Oh, what? WB Games? You ain't think I was gonna say shit? What? Oh, nah, I'm on your ass. Don't think we forgot. We ain't never gonna forget. We gonna acknowledge it. We ain't just gonna let that slide. It's over. Part 2 of the review. I'm on y'all ass. So a guy walks up, reveals Shang Tsung scammed him with a fake potion, Bo Zhang tea to be exact, took all his money, and his daughter still died. Then the crowd surrounded him, beat his ass off screen. Then it cuts to a rainy, stormy night with Shang Tsung and all of his belongings. You can see the bruises on his face as he removes his elderly disguise. Oh, and that's another difference. Shang Tsung isn't actually old in this timeline, requiring him to soul suck to get younger. He's young the whole time. As he's sulking in mediocrity, as if he doesn't deserve a damn thing that happened to him, a lady shows up, which I can only presume at this point in the story to be Kronika, and recruits him on a mission to give him power. Then, Shang Tsung hits one of the most memeable, devious, and sadistic smiles in the history of both video games and the internet.
Right here's at your feet. That's a fucking meme right there. There it is, that's a fucking meme.
This opening cutscene is phenomenal because it piques the player's curiosity in the direction of the story, leaving the possibilities broad, but dropping interesting tidbits of information that I was wondering how they would be applied. Where's the Tarkat disease going to lead to? A civil war? A takeover? Where's the disease coming from? We don't get the answer to the last question, but we do get some interesting developments. The cutscene also effectively establishes how much of a scumbag Shang Tsung is, in more ways than we realize at this point. Even in this new timeline, some things just never change. The next cutscene shows notable arrogant wingman Kung Lao working in the fields in his village, Fangzhou, with the new chosen one, the new Liu Kang of this story, Raiden, who is content with living this lifestyle to help the ones he loves. Kung Lao, however, is justifiably dissatisfied, and it is this ambition that eventually drives both of them to a greater purpose later in the story. Shout out Old Man Wei, by the way. So they make a bet, last one to fill their cart pays for dinner at Madame Bo's. Shout out Madame Bo, absolute legend. Turns out she's been teaching these two young whippersnappers martial arts, and the reasons for why will come real soon. So Raiden clearly loses the bet, then try to perp on what the terms were. Very unfitting for our future champion, who just showed a humble attitude. And already I like Kung Lao's character because his first solution is to run the 1's. So Kung Lao schools Raiden, then all of a sudden, the Lin Kuei show up to cause Madame Bo some trouble. Smoke, Scorpion, and Sub-Zero, along with a bunch of lackeys. Madame Bo actually holds her own for a few seconds. Okay, let's get it. Let's get it. I see you over there. Then gets knocked off a balcony to a floor. Raiden runs through a bunch of minions while Kung Lao runs through Smoke, Sub-Zero, and Scorpion. Oh, and by the way, Bi-Han is actually not the iciest person in this fight.
Incompetent.
They check on Madame Bo, and it turns out she feigned her unconsciousness. And here is where the guy with the blue eyes and the hoodie from earlier reveals himself. The new protector of Earthrealm. The new Raiden. Fire God Liu Kang. He reveals it was all a test. The Lin Kuei were pulling their punches. Solid explanation. And that Madame Bo had been preparing both Kung Lao and Raiden to be Liu Kang's champions. Kung Lao excitedly and Raiden hesitantly accept the offer. A fun start to the story for our hero gang, as it has comedic moments, shows that Raiden and Kung Lao aren't pushovers, protects the Lin Kuei, shows off the fight choreography, showcases the graphics, which are absolutely stunning throughout this entire game, by the way. Like, to be honest, MK11 looks very good. Like, it looks like, to me, MK11 looks like a current gen game. But there is a noticeable upgrade in the graphics from MK11 to MK1. MK1 looks significantly better than MK11 without aging MK11, which I think is absolutely incredible. Like, when you play the story, the environments just look so detailed, real. They really put love and care into this game as far as the graphics. And the cutscene sets up properly for the next chapter. We also realize later how great of an actor Smoke is, because he actually turns out to be a pretty nice guy.
Madame Bo, it is a simple choice. Pay for our protection, or risk harm to this fine establishment.
You'll get nothing from me.
That, Madame Bo, is unfortunate.
After that, we get a couple entertaining missions with Johnny Cage filming an Indiana Jones-inspired movie. The sidekick kind of looked like Jonah Hill for some reason. We cut to Johnny's house, and it turns out he's not at the peak of his popularity, but on a downward spiral professionally, financially, and personally. And we see his wife Chris walk out on him. Johnny Cage is not having a good time. But through his struggles, he's already a more compelling character than he was in MK9 or 11. Family Man, MKX, MK11, Johnny Cage is pretty good though. I'll give it that. Then, Kenshi casually walks in, gives a veiled threat to Johnny, and fights him for Sento, Kenshi's clan's sword that Cage brought for $3 million. After losing and being tied up, Kenshi explains that he needs Sento to free his clan from the Yakuza and their criminal activities. Now remember what I said earlier about the character development being awesome? This is what I meant. The characters have great backgrounds that serve as an effective motivation for their actions. Johnny Cage is brokenhearted over his marital problems and is driven to get out of financial debt. Kung Lao wants adventure over a long life of boring labor. Kenshi wants to liberate his clan, and even Shang Tsung wants to escape a life of mediocrity. Not in any way, shape, or form justifying Shang Tsung's actions. I'm just saying it's a proper form of motivation behind his actions. So far, the only one that seems to not have a compelling character is Raiden. But it doesn't bother me too much, seeing how he's just swapped roles with Liu Kang. And as for Liu Kang's character, well, let's just start with the fact that he is the creator of this universe, serves as a powerful demigod, and can easily just bust through Johnny Cage's wall, but instead he opts to politely ring the doorbell.
And that's Malibu's finest. It's a great story. Bullshit. But great. You should seriously consider becoming a screenwriter. What in the actual fuck?
Good evening, Johnny Cage. I am Liu Kang, protector of Earthrealm. May we enter?
This is how humble Liu Kang will be throughout this entire storyline. Johnny Cage's disbelief about Liu Kang's introduction, explanation for his visit, and his status as a god of fire is understandable because he's only spent time in the modern, normal world, surrounded by technology. His time in Hollywood leads him to believe that everyone's just putting on an act. So it's up to Liu Kang to make him realize the gravity of the situation using his fire powers. The scene once again leaves a lot of intrigue for what's next. What exactly is Liu Kang gathering champions for? That question is immediately answered in the next scene, where Raiden, Kung Lao, Johnny Cage, and Kenshi are all seen training in the Shaolin headquarters. Then Liu Kang throws a gauntlet tournament between the four to see who will serve as his champion in the upcoming tournament against Outworld. If you've played MK11 and seen how they established how Liu Kang and Raiden's destinies are intertwined, then you know that since Liu Kang is now the protector of Earthrealm, that Raiden will be the new chosen one. So he runs through Cage, Kenshi, and Kung Lao one by one to become the champion. An interesting note is that this is Raiden's first victory over Kung Lao, emphasizing his hard work, dedication, and humility. He's given an amulet that grants him his electric powers for this timeline, as Liu Kang tells him he will need this to combat the dangerous Outworld combatants. After Kung Lao expresses his safety concerns for Raiden, Liu Kang confirms that this is not that tournament.
You must be careful, Raiden. You could get hurt, even killed.
No tournament participant has ever been grievously injured or killed. I would never send my champions unwittingly into Mortal Kombat.
Credits.
I like this because it establishes an entirely different feel for this story. Makes it feel fresh. A peaceful tournament between two coexisting realms. A nice change of pace and a great canvas to paint a new story. They head to Outworld for the tourney, meet Tanya and the princesses Katana and Melina, and head to Empress Sindel's palace for the tourney. On the way, as we see Li Mei arguing with Melina, we learn that Li Mei was on duty as the former leader of the Umgadi at the time of Jared's murder, the princess's father and Sindel's husband. Because if there are three certainties in life, they are death, taxes, and Jared ass get bopped up before the story even starts. This creates a rocky relationship between Li Mei and the royal family, and it's later revealed that she actually quit the Umgadi rather than accept punishment for Jared's death. And she was appointed as first constable in a role of law enforcement for Sun Do. So now she's got an interesting background. And throughout the story, we see that she's determined to serve justice and protect the royal family like she personally, along with the royal family, feels she failed to do on the tragic night of Jared's passing. We get to the palace, and after Liu Kang calms Raiden's nerves, we get to meet General Shao, who's just as much of a grumpo and a patriot for Outworld as he was in the previous timelines. The friendly exchange between Liu Kang and Sindel, along with her politeness towards Raiden, is comfy and heartwarming. It creates a completely different atmosphere than the Mortal Kombat tournament. Even the purpose of the tournament is different. Whereas the Mortal Kombat tournament existed to give Earthrealm a fighting chance against Outworld and Shao Kahn's ambition to conquer it, this timeline's tournament was created by Liu Kang and Jared so that both realms could coexist peacefully. It turns out this iteration of the tournament is also a gauntlet. Raiden against all the Outworld challengers he can handle. And the first is Li Mei, who has yet another uncomfortable exchange with a royal family member, this time Sindel. And although Li Mei handles her loss with class, you can just feel the disappointment, embarrassment, and guilt oozing from her body. After Raiden defeats Reiko, who is a complete jobber in this storyline, he is ass, I can't even hold you. We take a break from the tourney, as Outworld holds a banquet. Kung Lao feasts like my fat ass, Cage flirts with Katana, we get introduced to Rain, Melina has a tummy ache, we know where that's going, and we get some Outworld history exposition. The real important moment here is that General Shao has a short, drunken, bigoted rant towards Earthrealm. We cut to a private meeting where Sindel is chewing Shao out for this, and he suggests that Outworld should war with Earthrealm, mentioning a sorcerer's prophecy. I thought he meant Shang Tsung. Sindel reminded Shao that his father taught him that war was the last resort. She is determined to keep the peace, as she has done for the last millennium. It's at this point that OG MK fans are rejoicing, because Sindel's character is closer to the caring Edenian she was in the Midway games, rather than the ruthless, power-hungry thought she was presented to be in MK11's story and match dialogues. She dismisses Shao as her daughters walk in. She replaces Melina with Katana and Attorney, afraid that the former might show her fangs. It's also revealed that Melina caught Tarkat leaving the palace alone for one night, on some stress relieval-ish. They're trying to keep her condition a secret so that she's not banished from Sun Do before she takes the throne. But she's distraught because she thinks the public will rally for Katana to be Empress. Stressed out, she runs out of the palace. The tournament begins the next day, and apparently, Raiden ran through Kotal, Mortaro, and Shiva off screen? Damn. I mean, really I shouldn't be surprised, but Raiden got that rocket strapped to his back. Last two fights remaining are Katana and Shao, and he runs through both. The tournament is over, and peace is retained. By the way, General Shao in this storyline, jobber. I mean, he plays a major role, kinda, but he's still getting his ass whooped all over the place. Like, I don't think he beat one person in this story, if I'm remembering correctly. We cut to Liu Kang chilling in his lonesome, where Garrus pops up. This is where Liu Kang's character gets interesting, because we learn that he gave up control of the Hourglass and his role as Keeper of Time, instead opting to become Earthrealm's protector as Raiden was before him. He didn't want his omnipotence to drive him mad as it did Kronika. NetherRealm Studios have done a fine job with Liu Kang's character since MK9, where he questions Raiden's decisions and ultimately dies trying to stop him. In MK11, the past Liu Kang opposes Raiden again, and in Aftermath, he makes the tough, arguably ruthless, but intelligent decision to allow Shang Tsung to kill all of his friends, knowing that he would be the only one able to defeat Kronika while keeping the crown intact. He was even willing to accept the risk of his failure to defeat Shang Tsung, and that risk paid off. And it didn't pay off. We're gonna get to that later. And it continues here, because Liu Kang had all the power in the world, but gave it up because of his humanity, his mortality, and his compassion for others is more important. This, to me, is the recurring theme of MK1's story, up to its end. And this, in my opinion, is the beauty of Liu Kang's character development throughout the NetherRealm Studios continuity. He's smart, empathetic, patriotic about Earthrealm, and peaceful, and his role in the new story feels like a compliment, not an overbearance. And Garrus' character, while one-dimensional, his humility and loyalty to Liu Kang, as well as his devotion to his position, not only serves his purpose in the story, as he is not meant to be a main cast member, but is also heartwarming, especially considering the torture the guy went through in the last timeline with the infinite deaths he suffered. Garrus warns Liu Kang that Shang Tsung is becoming a powerful sorcerer, escaping the meaningless life designed for him by Liu Kang, and that he's already speaking deceit to Sindel. So Liu Kang risks his trust with the Empress by sending Kenshi, Cage, and Kung Lao to Outworld in an undercover mission to capture Shang Tsung for questioning. They track him down as Shang Tsung and some Outworld soldiers approach a group of Tarkatans, and they are forcefully dragging in my personal MVP of the story, Baraka. We see Shang Tsung use a syringe on him to extract some marrow. We don't yet know what for. Baraka breaks free, killing the soldiers that were dragging him, and is about 2 seconds away from icing Shang Tsung, when our group of heroes did their hero thing and saved the day for the villain. This is the part of the game where it sinks in for me that a classic trope from MK vs DC Universe is used frequently throughout the entire story. The fights start over a misunderstanding, especially between two good guys. Then, only after fighting do they reason with words. While this could be seen as a flaw from a narrative and plot perspective, it's Mortal Kombat. I ain't taking this shit that seriously. The story is already miles better than what I would expect from a fighting game. Hell, it's better than most non-fighting games like third-person shooters and first-person shooters. I take Mortal Kombat story over what I've been hearing about trash-ass Modern Warfare 3. Here, Baraka explains the disease of Tarkat, how it cost him his life as a merchant, and that he now runs a colony, and that Shang Tsung extracts his marrow every month. Already, Baraka's character has been given much more depth than in previous stories, and we now have a reason to relate to him, to feel sympathy for him, more so than any other character. The Tarkatans collectively agree to let Cage, Kenshi, and Kung Lao capture Shang Tsung, and Baraka leads them to his lab. As he stays on the outside, the trio goes in to find Mileena on a bed, surrounded by Shang Tsung, Rain, and Tanya. Let me just take this time to say that the comedy bits in this story are hilarious. I mean, you got Icicle Guy, Kung Lao throwing a straw hat at Sub-Zero, Madame Bo being a G, and just about everything with Johnny Cage.
Get away from her, you bitch.
Excuse me?
You know, the movie. Tiny girl, ginormous alien. Ripley! No? Seriously?
Kenshi takes out Rain, while Tanya takes out Kung Lao. And as for Johnny Cage, well...
She slumped his ass.
Kenshi manages to get through Tanya, and Shang Tsung reveals that he's trying to cure Melina's Tarkat. The Earthrealm warriors understandably don't believe him until Melina's monster mode activates. They broke the syringe that Shang Tsung had already prepped, so they had to hold her off while he made more. While they successfully do this, it comes at a cost. Throughout this story mode and this new timeline, we've been able to witness the origins of lots of characters' abilities reimagined. I mentioned the straw hat from Kung Lao earlier. Well, that inspired him to make the blade hat we all know and love. Raiden is given an amulet to gain his thunder powers. Shang Tsung goes from fake magic to real sorcery. And we see his experimentation methods. We are explained the origin of Tarkat, and we see Melina's transformation. We don't get an explanation for Johnny Cage's shadow powers yet, but you know what we do get? The new origin for Kenshi's blindness.
Damn!
They range up Mileena, and when Katana, Shao, Goro, and a bunch of soldiers bust into the room, Shang Tsung frames the heroes, and they, along with Baraka on the outside, are captured. As General Shao spews his propaganda against Earthrealm, I am hit with my first major surprise of the story.
What? What the hell? In story mode?
It is no misunderstanding, Princess.
Now, I'll admit, I should have seen this coming. NetherRealm does have a history of including DLC characters within the story. But with this new timeline, I wasn't sure if any of the DLC characters would fit into the story, or if they would just become non-canon additions to the multiplayer, just like some of the cameos. To my surprise, at least half the cameos are actually in the story mode. And that's not even counting the final fight, Armageddon. After Quan Chi gets in on the propaganda, Katana and Co leave. An interesting dynamic occurs, as it is revealed that Shao, Quan Chi, and Shang Tsung are colluding together to bring Earthrealm and Outworld to war. But Chi and Tsung are colluding behind Shao's back so that their benefactor, the lady that was talking to Shang Tsung in the beginning of the story, can take over both realms during said war. This is where the plot becomes complex, and it interests me because anything can happen at this point. It might not be the easiest to understand for new players, but those new players are probably not going to care about the story at all, to be honest. I just care that the quality of the story is good, and so far, it is great. We cut to Shang Tsung's flesh pits, where Cage, Kenshi, Kung Lao, and Baraka are prisoner. And what does NetherRealm give us? More reasons to fuck with Baraka. He explains how his merchant business was successful up until Tarkat took his wife and children. He explains how his case of Tarkat feels like a slow death, All this backstory is being told at the request of Kenshi so that he can take his mind off the excruciating pain he's currently feeling. Damn. You got Johnny Cage showing genuine concern and gratitude for Kenshi, who saved his life from Melina. Johnny's whole tone changed because of the gravity of the situation, and the level of appreciation he shows for Kenshi makes you want to root for Johnny even further. And then the jailer shows up. Reptile, who is shown to be a compassionate person under damning circumstances. He has to force the others to take part of Shang Tsung's experimentation because the lives of his family are being threatened by the sorcerer. But Big Baraka ain't going for none of that. He and Kung Lao start slashing through Shang Tsung's Tarkatan abominations. Syzoth, in his rage, knowing that his family would die, could not defeat Baraka. And it's dialogue exchanges like this that make Baraka my favorite character in this story.
We are leaving. Then kill me. If I die, maybe he'll spare my family. No, I won't murder you. It's mercy, not murder. Not that what I've done deserves yours. You were protecting your family. I would have done the same.
Bro, I fuck with Baraka in this bitch, bro. Like, damn. They used to job this man out in the old story modes. Not only did they bring him back as an absolute wrecking machine, but they gave him a compassionate, empathetic character with a tragic background to overcome. And he's shown to be reasonable as hell. And helpful. So Shang Tsung pops up, tries to kill everybody, then reveals to Syzoth that he already killed his family a long time ago, because he is an absolutely ruthless son of a bitch. As they escape the flesh pits, Johnny continues to show compassion for Kenshi, as well as determination to pay him back for saving him.
Leave me. I'll just slow you down.
What? Shang Tsung finds you, he'll kill you.
Look at me, Cage. I'm useless. Don't risk your lives to save mine.
Hey, you are not giving up. The Tyra need you, remember? We are gonna get back home and figure out how to help you. Got it?
He was just trolling him about that shit mere hours ago. We can see in real life that stressful situations tend to bring out the best character traits in certain people. And Johnny Cage is an example of said people in this story. Then the characters enter one of the most legendary locations in Mortal Kombat history. A location that I briefly mentioned in my last video about fighting mechanics in Halo. It was a pretty fun video, by the way. Check it out in the description. I'm talking about the Living Forest. And it plays an important role in this story, as you'll see in a few minutes. We get more great character exposition as Reptile was driven from his people because they weren't fond of his ability to take human form. So he made money in the surface world as a traveling circus act. He met Shang Tsung as a fraud, and when he started learning real magic, he came back to Syzoth wanting to study him. When Reptile refused, Shang Tsung kidnapped his family like the douchebag he is. After this story, the heroes run into Ashura, who mistakes them for Quan Chi's demons. She is incapable of listening to reason without a fight. There goes that trope again. After Baraka lays the smacketh down on her, she reveals her background, that she's a demon from hell seeking absolution, not that much change from the 3D MK games, along with Quan Chi's plans to test a soul stealer in the Living Forest and his collusion with Shang Tsung. So the group of 6 agree, Johnny Cage begrudgingly over concerns for Kenshi's safety, to go hunt down Quan Chi. Oh, and Reptile eats some protein. They locate Quan Chi at the Soul Stealer with some company.
Darius and I have been thinking, Sorcerer.
Do not try to renegotiate, Havoc.
We need proof that you'll deliver.
That he's delivered for Natara's Vaternians is all the proof you need.
Serena's right. Because of Quan Chi's magic, my realm's people are no longer poisoned by sunlight. We've finally escaped the shadows.
Oh my god! Megan Fox does sound like a fucking AI in this bitch. Hey, Quebble Cobb will be proud of her. I mean, it's not the worst voice acting I've ever heard in my life, but like, god damn, you ain't putting no type of effort in that. Look, no disrespect, Megan Fox, man. Hey, shout out Megan Fox, man. Shout out Machine Gun Kelly. No disrespect, but I don't know, man. You made Ronda Rousey sound like a saint. oh boy. Kenshi wants to take part of the ass kicking, but Johnny stops him with the ultimate show of gratitude. After taunting him the whole game up until the flesh pits, Johnny finally hands Kenshi Sento.
Sento.
What? I can't. Not when you
saved my life. It's yours.
This moment right here is basically the culmination of Johnny Cage's character arc in the story. This is the full form of Johnny Cage's developed character. This is where he reaches that climax point. I would have loved to see even more meaningful character development after this, but we're gonna get to that flaw in the story later. So the brawl commences, and Natara says something that caught my attention.
We can't help what we are. That we feed on blood doesn't make us evil.
It disappointed me a bit because it's a take on Vaternians that could be further explored, but we never take that route as Natara is relegated to a side character and an evil lackey. And this is gonna be a recurring problem even for the more developed characters in the story. Like I said just a couple of seconds ago, we're gonna get to that later. Anyway, Natara gets hers handed to her, but the heroes are too late. The Soul Stealer becomes active, creating a Soulnado, and leading to my third big pop for the story.
That can't be! That can't be! No way!
Ermac does Ermac things, beats the whole cast up, including Reptile, who returned from his masturbation break. Like, seriously though, where the hell did he go during the whole fight? Like, he was right there, right before they got to the Soul Stealer, like, and then he just disappeared out of nowhere with no logic. Everybody had 1v1 to fight. They should have had a numbers advantage, but Reptile just for some reason disappeared out of the entire scene. Like, what was he even doing? You could have argued he went camo, but he did nothing, not a damn thing. He just was just off screen for some reason. Ermac throws Ashura into a whole other fight, which is with Havoc, which she runs through right quick. Then she actually gets the Quan Chi. He sent her sisters after her in the past, by the way. She was forced to kill them. So this fight is personal. She beats him up, then goes back against Ermac, who is still handling everybody 1-5. I don't know how Kenshi was able to accurately charge at Ermac in his condition, but he does, and is easily pushed back. Then, Sento activates. Kenshi's ancestors speak to him, and he officially becomes the Kenshi we all know and love. He and Ashura jump Ermac for the dub.
We are many. You are one. We will destroy you.
What's wrong with him?
Combat must have weakened the magic that binds his souls together.
Sinel, I'll find you.
What was that?
Watch him. I'll shut down the Soul Stealer.
They stop the Soul Stealer and abduct Quan Chi to head through Sundo to get to the Outworld portal back to Earthrealm. Baraka stays behind, making this the unfortunate last we get to see of him in this story. This one had to hurt the most because Baraka was my favorite character in the story. They were fleshing him out, making him more human and relatable. It just abruptly ends. We don't get to get any more character development from him, which again is a recurring problem in the story, and I feel like this is a problem in the story for mainly one reason that we're gonna get to later. The intention of the gang is to abduct Quan Chi and bring him to Liu Kang for questioning, which is exactly what they were trying to do with Shang Tsung earlier. Unfortunately, a brawl broke out in Sun Do and Quan Chi escaped, but the remaining 5 heroes do make it back to Earthrealm. Liu Kang is disappointed to see that Kenshi lost his sight again in this timeline, and troubled to hear about the Deadly Alliance colluding against Earthrealm. Geras reveals an invader has granted both sorcerers powers that they aren't supposed to have in this timeline, and that it can't be Kronika because Titans can't be revived once killed. So Liu Kang theorizes that someone from the previous timeline has survived and is screwing with his plans. This is that convoluted plot stuff, and I'm loving it so far. Liu Kang sends the Lin Kuei trio of Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and Smoke to capture Shang Tsung and stop Soul Stealer production. But before that, Tsung reveals to his mysterious benefactor that he already has a plan to not only awaken an army of some sorts, but also to split the Lin Kuei from Earthrealm. The latter part of that plan succeeds because of Sub-Zero's ambition for glory and power. It's during this chapter that we get to see just how much of an asshole Bi-Han really is. I mean, he's talking shit to Tomas just because he isn't Lin Kuei by blood, talking about glory over duty, saying his deceased father lacked vision. Typical spoiled BS. Sub-Zero and Scorpion go in to capture Shang Tsung and Quan Chi, but fail when they get jumped and cuffed by General Shao's soldiers. Which, by the way, kind of doesn't make sense given what Scorpion is about to do in a couple minutes. Like I said earlier, not everything in the story makes sense, but it's still an entertaining ride. But it doesn't make sense because, like, how the hell is a bunch of random-ass soldiers beating Sub-Zero and Scorpion when we just saw Sub-Zero beat the hell out of Ermac? Which, I don't even think that should have happened. The power scaling in this story is kind of... these are things you just gotta try not to think too hard about as a Mortal Kombat fan. But it would help the story if NetherRealm did keep a sort of consistency while making the story make sense at the same time. That's when Shang Tsung successfully bribes Bi-Han to betray his brothers and Liu Kang by dangling the prospect of Lin Kuei superiority and battalions of Dragon Army soldiers post-Outworld's takeover of Earthrealm.
This is Emperor Ying's Dragon Army.
I definitely felt that betrayal was not, and I'm not talking about the one I just saw. But going back to that one, Bi-Han twists the knife even further by revealing he lied about trying to save his and Scorpion's father in his fatal accident. He let him die. Sub-Zero's ambitious greed and lust for power and glory had been festering long before he was Grand Master. Now, I'll say his demeanor throughout his chapter did make the eventual betrayal a bit obvious, but sometimes obvious makes sense for a good story, and this is one of those cases. Seeing the classic tale of Scorpion and Sub-Zero reimagined as a personal rivalry between two brothers, a clash between humility and pretentiousness, seasoned with lies and deceit, is a fresh and engaging take. That's not to say their rivalry in the last time wasn't entertaining, but that this new rivalry is intriguing in its own right. Scorpion busts out the cuffs and rage, somehow overpowers Shang Tsung, General Shao, and Sub-Zero, big cat but we'll let it slide, escapes the premises after a few skirmishes, including giving Havoc a case of Havoc face, meets up with Smoke before Sub-Zero catches up for the classic battle. It's here where Kuai Liang suffers his signature facial scar, but he beats/captures Sub-Zero, declaring secession from the Lin Kuei, and runs off with Tomas. After Geras confirms that the mystery Kronika-looking woman is from another timeline, Liu Kang sets out to Outworld to strike peace between the two realms. He gets there, and Liu Kang successfully convinces Li Mei to guide him to Sindel's palace. We see Li Mei's regret for letting Jarrett die and thus failing to protect the royal family. She's also disgusted to know that General Shao, Quan Chi, Shang Tsung are all plotting against the throne. After brawling with Reiko, they get to the palace where Li Mei has to convince the Umgadi, her former sisters, to let her and Liu Kang in. They bind Tanya and walk in with the Umgadi, right in front of Empress Sindel. Sindel's angry at Liu Kang for sending Earthrealmers on a secret mission to Outworld, and at Li Mei for letting Jarrett die, which has been a recurrent theme throughout the like, you gotta have some sort of forgiveness, man. Come on, man. She also sees Li Mei bringing Liu Kang into the palace as an act of betrayal, and breaking up the family even further. In regards to Jarrett, Li Mei obviously regrets the same and expresses that to Sindel, as well as losing a friend, and will stop at nothing to rectify the situation by saving Sindel's rule. After a palace royale breaks out, Melina goes into Tarkat mode and attacks her mother. After Li Mei saves her and Tanya syringes Melina, the two friends finally make up in a heartfelt moment. Li Mei's redemption arc is yet another character component that lifts the plot up and keeps the player invested in the story. You get yet another decently fleshed out character, either doing relevant activities to push the plot forward or putting in hard work to receive the outcome they desire, resulting in a feel-good moment. In this case, it is both. And to be honest, I feel like Li Mei's character arc is the only one that's truly complete by the story's end. Like, obviously they can do more with her in the next story, but like, as far as this block of her story, this chapter, her redemption arc, I feel like it was completed in this moment, even if her Tower's ending didn't exist. But the Empress still doesn't trust Liu Kang, so he takes her to the flesh pits, exposing her to all of Shang Tsung's foul experiments. Not stopping there, he reveals that he was once a Titan and the Keeper of Time, and is the creator of this timeline. He even shows Sindel a glimpse of the previous timeline, and it is here that we get the glorious return of the MK11 motif. Ah, the nostalgia. Sindel sees that she was Shao Kahn's evil wife, and that all three conspirators have somehow defied their destinies in this timeline. Shocked and awestruck, she doesn't even know how to address Liu Kang anymore, as she now knows he is her creator, and that he humbly gave up his powers as to not be driven insane like Kronika. This is where that down-to-earth realm personality trait kicks in.
Where to begin? Am I to kneel to my creator? Do you expect worship?
No, Your Majesty. My prior role was thrust upon me by circumstance. I am in no way divine.
Liu Kang is basically Raiden, but smarter, stronger, and more compassionate in this timeline. It was awesome to see the empathy that Fujin expressed for mankind towards Jax and MK11. And it's cool to see Liu Kang express similar traits in this timeline. After General Shao and co show up and get whooped, the gang set off toward the site of the Soul Stealers, along with Scorpion and Smoke. Tanya and Melina skirmish with Ermac, and after Melina wins, Chekhov's gun from earlier rears its head.
We must leave. Quickly.
Melina, wait.
Father?
Mortal Kombat's #1 dead homie, Jarrett. Hey, don't get mopped up this time, bitch. Oh, I'm just kidding, man. Shout out Jarrett, man. Respect. After a heartfelt reunion with her father, Melina, along with Jarrett and Tanya, meet up with Liu Kang and the gang, including Jarrett's daughter Katana and his wife, widow, Sindel, for another heartfelt reunion. In all seriousness, it's cool to finally see Jarrett directly involved in an MK story, as he's been background lore to the Indenians up to this point in the franchise. Now we get to see an actual interpretation of his personality. Apparently they shut the Soul Stealers down off screen, and now they want to capture the crown that controls the Dragon Army. Melina proves that she will be a smart queen by distracting the sorcerers for an ambush using some deception. Get ready to hear that word again real soon. The heroes whoop ass, Melina beats up Shang Tsung, and the Dragon Army plot is over. But one factor still remains. Who's been helping the sorcerers?
Until your benefactor is caught, The realms remain threatened. Who is she, sorcerer?
Speak of the devil. Liu Kang. Meet Damashi.
Damashi?
Damashi! Another Shang Tsung? At this point, I was confused, but interested as to where they would go with this.
You are the victim of deception, sorcerer.
And then, Liu Kang drops the bombshell that changes the complexion of the entire plot.
You're not Damashi. You're me. More correctly, you are me. A poor facsimile, anyway. Made lesser by Liu Kang's meddling.
What's happening here?
Alternate timeline.
This Shang Tsung is whom I battled for the Hourglass.
Oh!
I thought him dead.
As I did you, Liu Kang. It turns out our battle released mammoth energies which ripped apart time's fabric. The fight had two conclusions. In one, I was the victor.
That's canon!
In the other, it was you.
So this niggas just made Mortal Kombat Aftermath canon. That's a plot twist. That's crazy. That's crazy. I thought Aftermath was completely pointless. Mortal Kombat Aftermath 11 Aftermath is now canon. Both the endings happen. Both the endings are canon. That shit is insane. Hey, now hold on a second. The way they pulled that shit off is clean as hell.
In terms of surprise factor, this has got to be one of the best plot twists I have ever seen in a video game. Nobody ever expects the evil ending to a video game to be canon, but they just canonized both endings. How the hell did they even do that? I mean, I'm used to multiverse storylines and all, but like, I've never played Infamous before, but I'm moderately sure the evil endings for Cole for the first two games aren't canon. If I'm wrong about that, let me know in the comments. Spider-Man Web of Shadows has evil endings, but that game doesn't have a sequel, unfortunately. So the surprise of this plot twist hit me hard, but the twist becomes a bit problematic for the remainder of the story, as we'll get to very shortly. After Titan Shang Tsung proclaims his intentions to merge both timelines after exterminating all life in Liu Kang's, thus betraying his counterpart and Quan Chi, he leaves, and his evil versions of Raiden and Sindel attack. Melina's serum is wearing off, but this time she is able to control Tarkat and focus on the enemy at hand. Make no mistake, this is a blatant plot device, but I'd like to believe that everything she's learned since Liu Kang revealed the past timeline and exposed the plot against her mother's throne, her reunion with her father, who was the one talking to her when her serum wore off, and the fact that she sees her family in more immediate danger than she has at any earlier part in this story, are all proper motivating factors for her to take control of her disease in this moment. She beats Dark Raiden and Sindel, but couldn't stop the latter from dealing her mother a fatal blow. This means that Sindel is the only major good character to die in this game, and one of only two major characters. Her death results in an emotional scene with the royal family, where her soul is collected and stored within Jared. Not gonna lie though, I don't know if it was necessary to have Sindel die in this story. All we got was a sad moment from it. I'm not sure it added any value to the story, especially since Jared was revived. I mean, maybe the aspect of them switching spots can be explored in the next game or DLC, but I would have rather had their reunion be just a bit longer. Sindel didn't have to die to complete Melina's character arc, as she could have been crowned Empress while Sindel was still alive. It just felt like her death was shoehorned in at the last second to artificially convey stakes, kinda like Miranda Keyes' death in Halo 3. I don't have much of a gripe with the decision, but I just don't see its greater purpose. There's also the common Netherrealm theme of conveying just how dangerous an evil version of Sindel is. She tends to at least roll one hero in a pack per game. So the gang of heroes leave the site, wondering how to handle the coming invasion of Titan Shang Tsung's army. This timeline Shang Tsung theorizes there may be more than 2 timelines, but Garrus says that only the Keeper of Time wields the power to search, a power that Liu Kang gave up. But then, he drops a bombshell. He stored that power in a secret place, just in case Liu Kang needed it in the future. He kept this secret so Liu Kang would never be tempted to wield the power unless it was absolutely necessary, as the process would likely be permanent, ending Liu Kang's status as Earthrealm's protector, which he was relishing the hell out of. This is just more great character work for Garrus and Liu Kang, because it shows how loyal Garrus is to Liu Kang and how confident he is in Liu Kang's vision. He even reveals that this is the reason he didn't steal the power. It shows how down to earth Liu Kang is, and it shows the compassion that both have for life in this timeline, as well as life in general. Now, as we'll see later on, that's not going to stop them from taking lives when necessary. They do have human empathy, they just like to see other mortals prosper. As the two set out to retrieve said power, the others set out to attack Titan Shang Tsung's inner timeline portals and the Dragon Army, along with some of his Dark Warriors.
Our venom will spread. It will be the end of all things. Armageddon.
Of course, that quote.
After Shang Tsung, Quan Chi, and Raiden shut down the portals, we cut to Liu Kang in the Hourglass, where after regaining his power, he begins searching for other timelines. He successfully summons Titan Katana, who realizes that since their timelines both broke off from the same timeline, that this is her Liu Kang. And then, something special happens, the likes of which we have never seen in the history of any Mortal Kombat game.
If many timelines sprung from one, and we were both part of it, then you are my Liu Kang.
The same one who battled you in Shang Tsung's courtyard, who fought at your side at the Colosseum, who beamed with pride when you became Outworld's Khan.
What? Well, that's the first time they ever actually kissed.
Seem always to conspire against us, to deny us life's simple pleasures.
I don't know. Perhaps in one of the many timelines, they are ours.
I would like to think you brought me here for them, but I know you well enough to know better. What duty beckons us?
I will tell you.
Now, it's been long known that Liu Kang and Katana are each other's love interests, but they never actually kissed before, at least not in the game story modes. This is an epic moment 30 years in the making, the culmination of the main love storyline of Mortal Kombat. And unfortunately, this is the climax of the story, because it's all downhill from here in terms of character progression. After Liu Kang gathers more of his Titan friends, Titan Shang Tsung pops up with an army to attack his Hourglass, but is successfully repelled by the Titans and Garrus. They plan to travel throughout all timelines to gather an army massive enough to combat Titan Shang Tsung, who they correctly suspect will do the same. The heroes arrive at Shang Tsung's timeline, and the final battle between the two massive multi-timeline armies begins on a pyramid. For one timeline, the end of all things has come. Armageddon. Here, the game lets you choose your character for the final chapter. I was hoping that each character would hail from Liu Kang's timeline, so I chose Liu Kang hoping to fight as Titan Liu Kang. My hopes were for naught, as each character you choose is a version from a random timeline. You also can't choose to fight for Shang Tsung's side, so that means none of the characters that were fleshed out throughout the story, except for Titan Liu Kang, he fights by your side in the cutscenes of the final fight, have anything to do with the ending of the main plot. It almost feels like all the character work that was done throughout the whole story doesn't matter in the end. There were so many interesting ways to tie up the arcs for each character, and it was mainly this prospect that held my interest. But I think the game doesn't go this route because everyone's tower ending is from Titan Liu Kang's universe. But I much prefer it be the other way around. Have the story mode endings be of Titan Liu Kang's universe, and have the towers endings be from random fighters from each timeline across the multiverse. So the final chapter has like 15 fights against these cool ass versions of characters, as well as character mashups. I even fought Ninja Mime Johnny, a cult fave. Then there's a scene where Titan Katana ISO'd all 4 combat kids from a different universe. Honestly, I'm very surprised Takeda got included in the story, even in this small role. It all ends with the final boss battle against Titan Shang Tsung and Quan Chi as a cameo assist. And it's only 1 round? Nani? The final boss is a measly 1 round. Okay, so I get it. Armageddon is by far the longest chapter in the game, but it's still the boss battle. Like, Konika's boss battle in MK11 was decent. She even threw in some laggies to help her with her dirty work mid-fight. Hell, Shang Tsung's boss fight in Aftermath was 2 rounds. This is what I mean when I say NetherRealm dropped the ball during the final act of the campaign. They gave us this epic setup with plenty of interesting characters with compelling attitudes, along with awesome moments of wisdom, comedy, sorrow, warmth, and hopefulness. But they failed to finish it out in a meaningful way, instead throwing the character development to the wayside for an epic but empty multiversal battle. I would have loved to see the ending be used to flesh out the characters a bit more, or at least have one finish an arc of their story. Besides Lee May, hers is pretty good. And I think this was done because said character arcs have proper endings in the Towers mode as mentioned earlier. We see Sindel fighting with Jarrett for control of Ermac. Shang Tsung finds a well of souls. Johnny Cage is responsible for relaying the stories about the other realms to Earthrealm through his films so the public can slowly digest the info over time. Kung Lao's inability to teach humility almost allowed Shijinko to threaten the realms. Melina agreed to provide hospitality for the Tarkatans, and even publicly revealed her affliction to her empire. Rain helped Havoc flood Saito, but couldn't bear the guilt from killing dozens of innocent people, so decided to turn himself into Melina. And then there's Reiko's ending.
We needed a doomsday weapon. That weapon isn't a thing, though. It is a monster. Onaga, the Dragon King.
See? These endings could have been incorporated into the story mode, and I think it would have flowed better. Definitely would have had a lot more impact, and it would have been a better service to the story and the characters that were masterfully set up throughout it. The last quarter of this story does drag down the quality of the whole work, but not by too much, especially since we know we're either getting a sequel or an expansion. We just gotta make sure our heroes from Liu Kang's timeline play a more important role in it, and it looks like it'll be that way if we can judge off the last scene, where Liu Kang, Kenshi, Kung Lao, Raiden, and Johnny Cage have a bite at Madame Bose. By the way, the rando that we do fight as at the end in the final boss fight does defeat Shang Tsung and Quan Chi 1-on-2 because those two successfully trapped Titan Liu Kang in like a snake trap, or they tied him up basically with some sort of sorcery, and we won 1v2, which I don't know. I mean, there's been inconsistent power scaling throughout the whole thing, but I don't see why Liu Kang had to be tied up. I mean, he could have been used as our assist character. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. But we beat their ass, and we saved Liu Kang's timeline while destroying Shang Tsung's. So, yeah, that's how that ended. Also, there's the cliffhanger mid-credits with Havoc. Now, I think Havoc is going to be an interesting villain. Not due to depth or complexity, but solely because of the absolute carnage he's about to cause for the realms. He's basically going to be MK1's Kid Buu or DBZ Broly. And those are 2 iconic characters I adore, not just despite their lack of depth, but partially and particularly because of it. They just get in there, cause mass chaos, and fuck shit up. That's exactly what I'm expecting from Havoc in the upcoming story. Flat, anticlimactic ending aside, MK1's story was an enjoyable experience. I loved the characters, specifically Johnny Cage, Liu Kang, and the almighty Baraka. I love the battles, the fight choreography, except for that time Sub-Zero could have killed Shang Tsung. That made no sense at all. And the convoluted plot up until the grand reveal. I like how we see the origins of classic traits from characters, from Kung Lao's hat to Kenshi's blindness, the Tarkat disease, Raiden's electrical powers, Reptile's human and Zatara forms, and Kuai Liang's facial scar. We also get some cool references to past games, such as Shang Tsung's Old Man disguise, Titan Shang Tsung's Chronica disguise, the reunion of the Deadly Alliance, the numerous Deception references, including Ashra's hat, the MK11 flashbacks, Dark Shao's Armageddon line, and the Pyramid. There are a few comedic moments, mostly involving Johnny Cage.
Get your hands off him!
Was that necessary, brother?
To put him in his place.
There are great character moments, like Baraka and Kenshi's conversation in captivity, Baraka showing empathy for Reptile, Johnny Cage giving Sento to Kenshi, Li Mei making up with Sindel, and the kiss between Liu Kang and Kitana. Everything Liu Kang did was down to earth realm, if you catch my drift. Everything both Shang Tsung's did was deliciously cold-blooded. Up until the end, you had multiple sides with multiple goals. Liu Kang wanted to keep the peace, Sindel wanted to do the same, but both were trying to keep their respective realms from being dominated. General Shao wanted outworld supremacy, Shang Tsung and Quan Chi wanted to rule both realms, and Titan Shang Tsung wanted to rule all timelines. This was an absolutely convoluted plot with combustible elements where anyone could have betrayed anyone, and we did get some betrayals. I'd have liked to see the Havoc conflict with Order Realm be explored, as well as Natara's character and her home world of Paternus. But overall, I'd say it was a fun and compelling story. Not always logical, but compelling nonetheless. And that is it for my campaign review for Mortal Kombat 1. Not gonna lie, I'm about to take 40 for part 2. Like, I've already taken very long to put this out. You know, I'm not really the best at managing my time correctly, so, and I've got like other goals as far as gaming to complete. You know, I just started up Doom Eternal again, and I'm trying to hurry up and get through that. I gotta beat Remnant 2, and as far as part 2 of Mortal Kombat 1, I don't feel like I'm nearly as informed as I should be to review the rest of the game. Well, the main two problems is that I haven't finished Invasions mode, and they're going to start a new season anyway, so I'm probably going to have to restart on that. And the other problem is, as far as multiplayer, I'm not that good at the game. And it turns out there were a whole bunch of features that, I was looking at other people's reviews, and there were a whole bunch of features that were in MK11 that I probably took for granted at the time I was playing MK11 that aren't in MK1. So there's a bunch of things that I need to explore about Mortal Kombat 1, mainly beating Invasions and just getting better at the game so I can talk about frame data and how the game works and stuff like that. But until then, while I'm going to try to put in time to do that while I am grinding the hell out of Doom Eternal and Remnant 2. I also have a fun Halo video coming up. It's going to be about my personal most important achievements to achieve in Halo Infinite's multiplayer. I'm going to be a busy man. I hope y'all can stick around. I'm glad y'all came around. Thank y'all for coming to the P34J channel. This is Snake. This is P34J. It's in my blood. Have a good one.